Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
All right, what's up? Welcome in, everybody. It's been a very busy week of Mac Jones, Bill Belichick, Patriots takes. And I guess the operative word is indignation right now. It's a lot from Mac. There's some for Bill. But really, there's an all-around sense after this Dallas game for a 1-3 Patriots team of, you got to be joking with this. Thought we were past this. Who are you guys? Here's RG3 on ESPN laying blame with Bill.
For me, this comes down to coaching. In year two, Bill Belichick messed up his young quarterback. When you give him a defensive coordinator and a special teams coordinator as his offensive coordinator, and now he's on his third coordinator in 3 years in the NFL, that is, to me, the epitome of a coaching malpractice. And Bill Belichick's one of the greatest coaches we've ever seen. He's arguably the greatest coach of all time in NFL history. But he really overthought this, and it's hurt Mac Jones permanently, in my opinion.
Meanwhile, here's Mike Lombardi, GM Shuffle, great podcast. He obviously is a former Patriots exec, a Bill Belichick confidant, consigliere, probably one of the most important and closest guys to Bill during his entire NFL career in a lot of ways, together in Cleveland, together here in New England. Here's Mike kind of saying, well, it's kind of Mac. He's done a bait and switch with his performance.
What bothers me the most is the fact that I thought he was going to be very good decision-making. I thought he was going to have great timing, and I thought his accuracy was going to be. But so far, his accuracy and control of the football has not been good. And you can't deny this. I mean, Eagle game, pick six. Miami game, turnover. Dallas, 2 turnovers. You know? I mean, the fumble. You know, next thing you know, it's 18-3, and the Patriots can't play from behind. They're not good enough to play for. They got to play from in front.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about yesterday morning on Lombardi Line. Said, hey, if whoever gets control of this game, this could be like a runaway situation. It ended up being a runaway situation for the Cowboys. The interception, the pick six to Deron Bland, that was one where it's like, dude, why are you throwing across the field? Like, what are you doing? Like, that's just.
But he does that. He does that quite a bit. Like, that's the thing that you thought when you watched him at Alabama, he would be a good decision maker. And so far, you know, he hasn't been. Like, people say, well, he was. I'm going to say this. Like, they were actually better on offense last year than they are this year.
Yeah, that's tough.
Nobody wants to hear that, but that's the truth. They could run the ball last year.
So you've heard enough from me this week. I wanted to get my guy Andrew Callahan in here from the Boston Herald. Hi, Andrew.
Hello, Tom.
To see how much of the toothpaste we need to put back in the tube vis-a-vis Mac. I mean, we were indignant, right? Andrew, after the game, we were pissed off. We were like, get up and watch that again. But I had them going to Dallas and scoring 31 points because I thought they were sniffing around a level of improvement. So what's the truth about Mac as we go to New Orleans?
I think the truth about Mac is the same truth we've seen the last 2.5 years. He's a pocket-bound point guard who needs things to be very comfortable for him to survive. And I looked at the first 3 weeks and go, he's been uncomfortable a lot. You're talking about the 3 best pressure teams in the league, and he survived. He did okay. Then you face another top 5 team in Dallas, and he completely melts. And so what this says is he needs to win from the pocket. He can't extend plays. He's got plus accuracy, smart kid, but he can't win when he needs to extend a play or launch the ball downfield because he just doesn't have it. And so I look at in the aggregate, he seems like the same guy we saw 2 years ago as a rookie.
Did Mac see, he was definitely terrified, petrified, and making horrible decisions because he just didn't know up from down by the time he got out of there. But as I had a developing opinion as the game went along, I think that he was under duress. But in games previous, and really at the end of last year too, we saw him take off and try and make plays with his feet and throw on the run. And we saw that in the first 3 weeks as well. I think that he initially thought he was going to get away with it until the strip sack, and then until the sideline pass, and then until he started to scurry and threw it at Ramondre Stevenson's feet. And then he got away with the cross-court pass and threw another one and got a pick six. I think that he thought he was going to be a little bit of a magician and open some eyes. And then he found out, oh, I can't do that.
I think that's fair. And that's where I drew the line in my film review was the strip sack. I mean, that's where things crumbled because you look at the first drive, that 42-yard pass to DeMario Douglas, he is outside the pocket. He's doing the things I just said he couldn't do. 12-yard completion to Mike Gesicki, gets absolutely crushed, delivers the pass anyway. Stuff we had seen the first 3 games. But when he commits that strip sack, it was like Bill was in his head saying, I said all week, you can't do this. And there goes the ball. And there goes 8 more points. And here we are playing from behind, something we can't afford to do because you lost the ball. And so you look at the plays you just mentioned. First play, reminder of Stevenson just throwing it downward at his feet like he had a bug in his hand and he was trying to get rid of it. Into the belly button of a Cowboys safety on the sideline before the half in a 2-minute drill. And then the pick to Juju, which was a bad route, great coverage. But just stop throwing to Juju and got to have it situations. He just melted from that point on. And I get it to a degree. They need to protect him better. It's just he's trying to navigate and figure out what he can and can't do. And that's a bad sign for a quarterback in his 3rd year and in an offense heading into its 5th game.
That was a perfect storm for him, too. I mentioned this yesterday. We were on Early Edition, and there was a perfect storm for Drew Bledsoe in 2001 before he got yanked. And it really existed in 2000 as well. When Charlie Weiss came in, took over that offense, it was a timing, rhythm-based offense. You can't stand there and pat the ball, throw downfield, sling it, and everything else that Drew was so good at. You had to process quickly, get rid of the ball with great accuracy. Velocity was great, but placement was better. And Drew did not exhibit that at all. Really, it was not a quarterback strength of his. And when he melted down against the New York Jets, I said, he's not going to get his job back. That was before Brady did a thing. I said, Drew won't get his job back because Brady does the things that Bledsoe can't. And I didn't think he would win 6 Super Bowls and play in 9 with the Patriots, but he did. But I was pretty sure that was going to be the end of the road for Drew Bledsoe because Brady was that kind of player.
Good job by you.
Drew was miscast. I don't think that Mac is miscast, but if you want to have a stationary pocket passer who thrives on accuracy, you can't have an offensive line that you just wing it with. And the Patriots have, even though Wynn was an excellent player, he's a 6th-round pick. Trent Brown was scooped off the scrap heap and turned into a tremendous player by Dante Scarnecchia in large part, and to Trent's credit as well. But my point is, you've got a stationary passer behind a porous and understaffed offensive line with very average wide receivers, a couple okay and better than okay tight ends, and that's it. So what do you think is going to happen? So that's where I get back to with, of course, it's going to look like crap. You'd be better off with Justin Fields if you're going to invest this way in your offense. You'd be better off with a lot of guys. But your Purdy's and your Tuas and your Sam Howells and your Mac Joneses and your, you name the stationary guy, they'd look like this too.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I think when we do these podcasts and have TV, like I think some part of the audience has to think we're colorblind because it has to be black or it has to be white. And in this case, is it Mac's fault? Is it Bill's fault? The truth is, it can be both. Like Mac played abominably at Dallas. Okay, that's what happened. He was so-so against the Jets. That's on him. But the last 2.25 years around him, as you've described with the offensive line and the lack of receivers, and the fact they have more cash to spend in 2024 and 2025 and seem completely reluctant to use it, despite the fact their quarterback is on year 3 of a rookie contract, is part of a masterclass by Bill and how it'd fail your rookie pocket-bound point guard. Like imagine, this is going back 7 years, but you're an NBA fan. Matthew Dellavedova on that finals team against Golden State in like 2015. If he's not surrounded by LeBron James and Kevin Love and Kyrie, Love, like Kyrie, they got hurt. But like that's who Mac is, man. And that's not his fault. He's Jeff Teague or Matthew Dellavedova. They can hang in the league. Just get him some talent.
There's always basketball parallels to quarterbacks, especially, aren't there?
Yeah, totally. Like Mac calls himself a point guard, which I'm happy because that gives me license to call him a point guard. But then you further refine it, like a point guard without a shot. It's a guy who can't get outside the pocket. And that's what you're seeing from the best quarterbacks nowadays. It's not that you can just get outside the pocket and throw. Maybe you scramble, but you're the guy who's hitting the 3-pointer late in the shot clock, one-on-one, creating something out of nothing. That's quarterbacking now. Belichick can have the best designed defense, airtight coverage. And it doesn't matter against Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, who have beaten him, whatever it is, 6 to 7 of the last 8 times. because they're that good. That's the game now.
Yeah, he's at his very best. He would be Stockton. He's not even Nash.
No.
He's Dellavedova. What are you talking about? You're right. He's exactly Dellavedova. Right up to the scrappiness, i.e., scrappiness.
The line stepping. If we want to be
the habitual line stepper, not tapping. Will we ever see again what we saw Sunday? Because I really do think that was the perfect storm of, hey, I feel good going into this game. I feel real good. I think we're gonna make some plays. I really think he was confident going in, and then when the shit hit the fan, he melted because it was like, I think he was dumbstruck by how badly things were going, and that's why he had no answers.
I think everyone was. I mean, you saw that shot of Belichick that Fox got where he's just like wiping his face as if he had sweat down, except for there wasn't. He was just that upset. But it is a good point. I picked them to win going into this. And I want to be clear. I don't want to see a repeat of Sunday. That was a waste of everyone's time. I'm writing, why should anyone believe in the Patriots right now from what they've given you the last 3 years? Like the idea that they'll work harder, they'll have some sort of answer at the end just hasn't been true. They need to prove it to you in what's already been a prove-it season. If you want to say, no, we won't see that again, your argument is they faced, according to PFF, the 4 best pass rushing teams in the entire league, weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can't get harder than that. If you're arguing,
you're on a roll, but partly those statistics always end up including the games against the Patriots.
Yes, for a very good reason. Right. And you could, those teams are going to finish in the top 10. Maybe Miami gets bumped. You just look at the raw talent: Jalen Carter, Micah Parsons, Quinton Williams. Like that, they're going to be in the right neighborhood, the bigger houses, all that. The argument for saying this will repeat is the mere fact that we saw what Mac did under pressure a year ago. And if Sunday was an inflection point of his lack of trust in the offensive line, in the offense as a whole, as he's saying the same things he did 2 weeks ago, they lose to the Dolphins. What do you need to do? Follow the rules of the play, not try to improvise like he did. Then he'll just keep breaking down the rest of the season. Because the other part is this: Dallas held him to 7 of 13 for like 100 yards and a pick against man coverage. They only had 3 catches from receivers not named Demario Douglas against man coverage. The Saints play a ton of man coverage. The Bills play more man coverage against the Patriots than anybody, and they can't separate. And that's an issue that's not going away. So unfortunately for Mac, it's still on his plate. You're going to be under pressure. Your guys aren't going to separate. How are you going to respond? And that's the only way that we know if we get this perfect storm again. I don't know. Was there a sequel to Perfect Storm, that movie? Did you see that?
I did. It was, it was a great movie. Is that Mark Wahlberg? I think it was.
But you know what I mean. The giant waves crashing
definitely
down.
Was not a sequel.
Yeah, because there's, that's what makes it perfect. There's one. Or is the second wave going to crash down and not just drop you to 1 and 3, but wash away your entire season? Because those are the stakes now.
I'm going to change gears a little bit and talk about the guy behind Mac. Mike Felger was indignant because
Mike Felger,
because he believes that he was unfairly bullied in late August when we all made fun of him for talking about Bailey Zappe, and he took this as an opportunity for a victory lap of, hey, he was ahead of the curve on why Bailey Zappe was a feasible alternative to Mac Jones. Here's Felger, just inflamed yesterday.
Depending on how the rest of the season plays out, the Patriots may have to do another reset and go after a 3rd new starting quarterback in 5 years as the post-Brady situation drags them towards NFL mediocrity. So I can't argue with any of that. I'd hang on to Jones. I'd try and rebuild around him or another NFL quarterback. I'm petrified of the draft. You know me. That's that thing there. But this also ties into a little more Zappe commentary that I'm starting to get, which is bugging me too. And I'll save that for a little bit later. But it's like, now? Wait, so now is it okay to talk about Zappe, you guys? Is that all right? Because I know in August, it's like we were some sort of a-hole. Some sort of like, oh my, I was some sort of idiot for talking about Bailey Zappe in August. You want him to start? Why don't you talk about Malik Cunningham? Like all these guys that I work with on TV and like shaming me for talking about Bailey Zappe, the backup quarterback in August.
And Greg.
Bedard. Yeah, Bedard, like all of them. No. Bedard, Holly, Gasper, all these guys. Curran, idiot. What are you talking about, Bailey? So you want Bailey Zappe to start? No, it's just August, and I think Bailey Zappe is closer to Jones than you guys do. I don't know. It's just what you do. And Malik Cunningham played last night, so we're going to talk about him. Idiot, you want him to start too? Is it okay to talk about the backup quarterback now, guys? Is it all right? 4 games into it? Like, Jesus. So, like, that's bothered me too. It's like, oh, now all of a sudden I'm hearing about Bailey Zappe. Well, hello? Hey, I guess that wasn't that stupid to talk about the backup quarterback when he was playing in August, I guess.
Here, Mike, let me make this simple. The reason you shouldn't have been talking about Bailey Zappe now, and have to remember the context in which you talk about him, is because you looked at him as more than a human tourniquet. You thought that he was a viable alternative to Mac Jones as a starting quarterback in the league, okay? That if Mac didn't play well, challenge Mac to improve. And it's a competition. It's not a competition. Bailey Zappe coming in is basically like a position player in a blowout baseball game coming in to pitch. You can't have it. They don't have a good enough backup. He's not backup level, NFL backup level for a playoff bound team. Not saying he can't play ever, but again, he's a human tourniquet. You put him on when Mac's bleeding, you take him off when you got Mac stitched up. That's what happened last week, and that's what should happen going forward. Hopefully Mac doesn't start to bleed out again, because any long extended periods of Bailey Zappe mean a top 10 pick.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, the Patriots made this very clear on cutdown day. Goodbye. They cut him. They were perfectly comfortable with any other team in the league claiming him and going to find another number 2 quarterback who on short notice would have had to come in the game in a prove-it season against the Eagles and then the Dolphins, Jets, maybe Cowboys if Mac had gotten hurt. That didn't happen. That didn't happen because the other 31 teams were comfortable going, yeah, we've got a better guy than Bailey Zappe. We might have 2 or 3 guys better than Bailey Zappe. That's who he is, okay? You want to talk about pocket-bound point guards. Like, this is G League Matthew Dellavedova. That's what Bailey Zappe is. And there's fine. That guy gets paid a lot of money. So does Bailey Zappe now that he's back in the 53-man roster. But you understand also that even though the Patriots brought him back, how many third-string quarterbacks do they cycle through now? Like, Will Greer's here because they're not happy with Zappe still. Matt Corral, they tried to bring in and then bring back. And he just said, no, F it, I can't do this. But they wanted that guy because Bailey Zappe wasn't good enough to push him, not to push Mac.
Ian Book.
Patriots legend.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. This is panic. It's just malpractice, to borrow RG3's. It's offensive malpractice. And I'm going to get deeper on this next week because I really think that what you're seeing is a come to Jesus moment about what the direction of the New England Patriots franchise needs to be philosophically going forward. And if I'm the ownership, if I'm Robert and Jonathan Kraft and saying, we're going to do it this way, get on board and accept it with us or don't. You can't really give an ultimatum, but you can't be boring and bad. All right, so going forward, here's Bill O'Brien and then Mac Jones on what has to happen this week.
The game wasn't lost because of one guy. The game, was lost on our part because of how poorly we played and coached in the game. And so, Mac he's here today. He's working very hard to get back on the right track. And, we have a lot of belief in Mac.
Confidence is something that comes from years of practice, and it grows over time. And I think that's what I have to look back on is, I've played well at times and I just got to be more consistent. So I know it's there. Like I said, just focus on my job, play by play, take the emotion out of it, and go out there and try and distribute the ball to the right people.
Andrew, I'm still naive enough to think it's a matter of time. I still think that they're going to figure it out. The snippets of play we saw against the Dolphins and the Eagles will be extended at some point over a 60-minute period, and the Patriots will score 38. I don't know why, but I do.
38?
Not this week.
Okay.
At some point.
I think they're going to need a position player to come in and start pitching if that's the case from the other team. Like there's not enough talent. That's what it is when I look at
what
this
happens
team.
this week? Are they going to get their ass kicked up between their ears again and have to blow their nose out their zipper without their two best defensive players?
No, they're going to wrestle in the mud with the Saints. This is a Spider-Man meme game. You're looking at just average quarterback play, not to mention Derek Carr's injured right now and trying to push through that. Another offense that has minimal motion, doesn't use a lot of play action, very well coached defensively, tons of schemes, defensive backs just coming out of Dennis Allen's butt like Belichick has. But this is going to be a field goal game. Like the Patriots are 1-point favorites at home, which means the Saints in a neutral field would be favored. And I think that's fair when you look at the roster talent. But this is the Jets game. Screw up less than they do, and we win. But there's no way that they run up, I think, more than 24 against the Saints.
This game, as we know, is at Gillette, even though I think I said earlier going to New Orleans, meaning going to the New Orleans game. It's a 1 o'clock game. People will be at full throat, ready to go, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. If we see old Bryce Behringer too often, it's going to be a problem. I mean, people are going to be hooting and hollering.
Yeah, I mean, we all love Bryce Behringer too, so this will be a real downer because that kid can boom with the best of them. But yeah, I think they were booing at halftime of the Dolphins game. They were down 17-3. That's week 2, Sunday night. Okay, 1 o'clock. Haven't been liquored up or loosened up, whatever Brady said in the parking lot for all that long. But the fans know the stakes of this as well as anyone. Lubed up. Thank you. Lubed up. And they don't know what 1-4 feels like, because you can say what you will about the Patriots being 1-3. They dug their way out in 2021. Last year they got close. Mac was hurt, blah, blah, blah. Like there is no, as Joe Judge's sweatshirt said in the locker room last week, there's no one coming. This schedule is a murderer's row. You get a brief reprieve, Saints, Raiders, maybe, and then Buffalo, Miami, bang, bang, back to back. That could be your season, and especially if you fall to 1-4. This could get ugly in a way, and I'm not even talking about the play on the field because this is just where the Patriots are right now.
I don't want it to get ugly. I don't.
Me neither.
We're going to take a little break. We'll be right back with the poll that I did, really investigating. Well, we'll be back in a second.
Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/NSBO and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in Mass. Hope is here. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling helpline ma.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com or call 1-800-GAM-1234.
All right, so here's the poll that I put up Wednesday evening. Week 5 of 2025, who will be the Patriots head coach quarterback combo? You see the results. 18.7% say Bill and Mac. They'll be riding happily along together. 31.7% say Bill, no Mac. Only 7.2% say Mac, no Bill. And then the greatest number say no Mac, no Bill. And when you look at these numbers, Andrew, one interesting thing emerges is that you got 49.5% say there is a no Bill situation that you're looking at. And 50.5% say there will be Bill. So people don't know what's going to happen with Bill Belichick. I think that's a pretty good bet. But 73% say no Mac. And I bet some of that's tied to the contractual stuff I alluded to. But just for poops and giggles, let's roll through these scenarios. What has to happen for it to be Bill and Mac happy and ensconced here?
They need to U-turn the season ASAP because, again, Saints, Raiders, start with winning both those games. You're 3-3. Let's say you lose to Buffalo, Miami. Then you get the Commanders and the Colts 5-5. You're in the playoff push. You're hanging around. But you need to exceed expectations, not only in the way relative to preseason, but where they are now. Because so far it's been very bad. And I think that starts with Mac, frankly, because, again, they traded for J.C. Jackson. They're not going to be able to trade for a whole new offensive line or a number one receiver. Teams like to keep those when they have those in good spots. So for them, I just more turnovers on defense. Like you have to finish, I think, 9 or 8 or better at this point for both of them to be back.
Yeah. And obviously the other parameter, Mac would be in his 5th year at that point. So that means if he is still here, the Patriots either picked up his 4th-year option and are paying him like $30 million on the 5th-year option, whatever it is. It's a lot. Or they extended him and gave him, going rate for a mid quarterback, which is probably about $35 million for 3 or 4 years. So he might have signed a $140 million contract. So those things would have had to happen.
And I think there's an argument to be made, even if you're still unsure about Mac after 3 years, which at this point, I think it's like a relationship. If you don't know how you feel about 3 years, probably break up with the person and find someone you're very excited to be with. But with the quarterback, you can trade them. You can't trade someone out of a relationship. And that way you at least retain the asset of when you pick up Mac's 5th-year option. If you find a suitor in the offseason, you've expressed confidence, we like him as a player, as an asset, you can deal him either that same offseason with 2 years left on his contract, or you can wait till the year after because you still have a decent quarterback. And there are teams in the league right now that would take Mac Jones. I don't know what the price is, but that's the reason to pick it up, even if somehow we're still in this gray area.
That's a great point that I hadn't even considered, my guy. That is a great point. The feasibility and value of Mac Jones as a trade chip. And I think that fans are going to look and say, the guy sucks. He can't play. He's got a pop gun arm. That's what fans would say. GMs, offensive coordinators would say, you got to look at the context. He has flashes of great competence. If you put him in the right situation, he is in the opposite of the right situation. He's in the worst situation he could possibly be. No wonder he looks bad. It's a surprise he's even able to do what he does. That's what GMs and offensive coordinators might say. So he is a valuable trade chip. Believe it. Let's get into that plenty over the next few months. Bill no Mac. That means that Bill has gone through 2024, this year and next. He's either still chasing Shula or he caught his ass. And he's now 70, pushing 74 and still on the sidelines. 31.7%. What has to happen for that to occur? So Bill has to have a new quarterback that he found.
Yeah, he shopped Mac around supposedly last year. He does it again because, again, you're just not going to cut a starting quarterback in the NFL. You'll get something for him, even if it's just, 7th-round pick in a bag of footballs. But I think Mac would have to repeat the performance we saw at Dallas or break in a way that was obvious from the strip sack on, whether it's under pressure, whether it's he goes back to having those fits, and it becomes as clear as day, not just to us or the fans, but to Robert Kraft, that there's a hard ceiling here with Mac. And even though Bill has largely screwed him over with the lack of investment in the offensive line and the weapons, which we've talked about for over a year now, Mac's still not good enough to get it done because the limitations we all knew when he came into the league. And Bill's defense did its part, and still they got to 7-10 or 8-9, and Mac just kind of declines from here on out.
Yeah, and I still think that there would be a culpability on Bill's part that the Crafts might look at and say, you have to trade him because you screwed him up.
Right. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because then I think that would tie into his control over the roster. Like, is there an instance where Bill, the head coach, stays, but Bill, the GM, goes out the door with Mac?
Here's what's really difficult about that. So who do you elevate? Say Mac Groh? Bill, you're not allowed in personnel meetings. Mac Groh is reared by Bill Belichick and Bill Belichick's philosophy. So he's just going to do Bill's bidding as Nick Caserio did, as everybody but Scott Pioli did. You're just doing what Bill would do. WWBBD. So that's what everyone will subscribe to. So I don't think that you can take personnel away from Bill because he's such a massive figure that your GM is not going to fly in the face of what Bill would want on his football team. So I don't even think that's feasible, taking personnel duties away from him. I would tell him he can never have another opinion on offense again, which I said like 3 years ago, and it's only been freaking brought to fruition completely. All right, how about Mac no Bill? It's only 7.2% of respondents who thought that could happen. I think it should be heavier because we have had no pledges. We've had a vote of confidence, if you will, in Mac Jones expressed by Robert Kraft.
Yeah, and I think you've seen this across the league, right? Like owners have chosen the quarterback saying, I believe in him, and you need to come in as a new coach. Take Brian Dable, for example. Daniel Jones is going to be here. Part of the interview process for that head coaching job is, can you fix him? And the only guys that make it to the next stage are the ones that say yes. And so Kraft will have to put out feelers here. You know, we're talking again, 7-10 season, 8-9, but this is where the defense falls apart. Max stays strong under pressure. It's clearly not his fault. We repeat that October, November, December. And around late December, early January, as Kraft is very quietly putting out feelers for who would be interested in this job, that question gets asked. What do you think of Mac Jones? Because before we bring you in, we need to know that answer because we've seen him do enough and we're willing to spend in a way, maybe like we did in 2021, to finally give him the help he needs and deserves.
42.3% say no Mac, no Bill. What has to happen for that to happen? I mean, it's actually that I get to why it might have the most, because that could come to pass even if the team isn't bad. Like Bill could catch Shula, or Bill could say, you know what, it was a good run, you know, or, you know, something happens and it just happens by osmosis and no heads really roll. It's not as dramatic as we might imagine. You know, Mac goes on someplace else, didn't work out.
Yeah, I think you have Gerard Mayo steps in as a head coach, and he's a guy who doesn't have to answer the question I just outlined for outside candidates. It would just be, hey, I don't think Mac's good enough. I'm a defensive guy. I understand what stresses me out, and I've been around him for 3 years. He works hard. He just has limitations. Like the guys that I can't defend, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Herbert, are guys that you need to go into the top 10 and go get, and they're not dual threat or pocket passers. They're both. Mac's one. And that's it. So I'm with you. I think this number is probably a little too high because people are just pissed and we're all blaming Mac or Bill, and fans are doing the same thing. But this doesn't have to be, you know, bombshell after bombshell this season with losses like we saw at Dallas. You just lose by 7 or 10 to good teams throughout the end of the year, and at this rate, finish at 6-11. And who wants to hold on to that team at this point after last year 8-9 and 2 years ago 7-9 with Cam Newton? It's a 4-year stretch that no quarterback or coach should really survive.
All right, Saints Patriots on Sunday. Rock fight has to be.
Yeah. This is like David versus David. Just slingshots back and forth. There's rocks flying. No one's enjoying this. There's no drama. There's no upset. It's gross. But you know what? Are you going to ask me for my game pick? Can I give it to you now?
Yeah, why not?
13-12 Patriots. I said there's no reason to believe in them. I agree with that. I think the roster talent is still in the favored side of New Orleans, but there just has to be a desperation here that gets you across the goal line one more time. Or Derek Carr, limited Derek Carr, screws up more than Mac. Like no turnovers, one turnover, you should win this game. And I think they get it done maybe against my better judgment.
I'll tell you again, 13-12, 25-20, 24-17. What was the score with the Jets? 15-10.
15-10.
38-3. 13-12, 22-0 at halftime against friggin' the Bengals in the second to last game of the year. You can't. We'll talk about this next week. Boring and less than good is unacceptable. But you know what is acceptable? Your weekend. I want you all to enjoy it. Andrew Callahan, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Tommy.